StrayAllDay.com.
You're now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day, to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. That is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques underneath the umbrella of one unifying philosophy that is called work on your game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is why you should follow people with whom you disagree. Before I get into this, I'll remind you all of two things. First of all, my daily motivation, Monday motivation message is guaranteed to have you focused, sharp, and on point every day or week, respectively. All you got to do is be a member of my text community, be getting these messages. It is free to join. Just text me at the following number, 305-384-6894. And once those messages start flowing again, you'll be getting those straight to your phone. You don't have to do anything. You'll just be getting them to your phone. Once you're in our texting community, we'll let you know that they are coming. Secondly, Work on Your Game University. All right, that is a place where I do my coaching. That's a place where you can get access to my best trainings, my best frameworks around performing at your highest level, doing so consistently, and generating more results in your life and in your business. If that is the wave that you're on, if that's the place that you're going right now, and that's the place where you want to be, go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. That is the place where you get access to our training, such as Bulletproof Mindset, the Work on Your Game system, the content machine process, the next mission framework, and 30 days of discipline, ASAP confidence, all of our trainings on sales, all of our trainings on marketing, all of our trainings on collaboration and reach out, all of our trainings on selling yourself, pitching yourself, and everything in between when it comes to building your business and building yourself. That is all at workonyourgameuniversity.com. And by the way, we're going to be doing a major upgrade of what we're doing in Work on Your Game University. So all the value that I talk about being in there will still be in there, but we're going to make it even better. We're going to be continually adding material to Work on Your Game University. And that is going to continue to be the main place that we're sending everybody. So if you are not yet a member of the university, I would suggest you fix that issue ASAP. But all that out the way, let's get into this topic here today, which is why you should follow people with whom you disagree. Now, this is an idea that I've been a big fan of for many years, specifically starting in 2016 when Donald Trump won the presidency of the United States. Because it was at that point that I realized that I had been listening to too many people who all had the same opinion, which was that there was no way that he could possibly win and that it was just all a joke and he was just running to draw some attention to himself. He would lose and ride off and go back to doing TV and go sell a book or something like that. He was just doing it to draw attention. There was no way he could actually win. And I was of that belief because the day that he won, when I woke up that morning and saw that he won, I was completely shocked. Like, how was it even possible that he won? Because everybody who I was listening to said, there's no way he's going to win. And what I realized was that I was the fool because I was listening to too many people who all had the same perspective. I wasn't listening to varying perspectives from different people. Therefore, I did not have a balanced view of what was actually happening as opposed to what I thought was happening. And at this point, that's when I took the red pill, so to speak, and I started listening to other voices to find out what I obviously had not been hearing up to that point. And ever since then, I've made a habit of following, listening to, and engaging with people who I know I fundamentally disagree with. I will look at someone's stuff and see what they're saying and say, I know I don't agree with this person. Fundamentally, I don't agree with where they're coming from, with the conclusions that they come to, or even the arguments that they make. And I will follow them and listen to them anyway. Okay, I do that anyway. And today I'm going to tell you why this is a good idea for you as well, because many people do the exact opposite of this. And as I've already told you, you want to separate yourself from the masses. You got to look at what the masses are doing and find where is your opportunity to not follow them. Point number one, topic once again, is why you should follow and listen to people with whom you disagree. Number one, it is a critical thinking challenge. All right, I talked about critical thinkers in a two-part mini series that I did here on this show, which was in episode 2073. I talked about signs that you're a critical thinker, but then even before that, episode 1826 and 1827. How to be a critical thinker and the habits of critical thinkers. If you haven't listened to those, go ahead and listen to them. You can listen to every episode in History of the Show at workonyourgamepodcast.com. If you disagree with a person, you need to be able to articulate why you disagree. Anytime you disagree with someone, you should be able to explain why exactly do you disagree. What is your fundamental disagreement with their point or with their position? And I don't necessarily just mean with their point, maybe the point that they made that day. If you fundamentally disagree, then that means you disagree with maybe their worldview and their approach. In order for you to disagree with someone's worldview or approach, you have to know what it is. You can't just go off of one talking point that you heard them say. You can't go off of one post that they did or one video clip that's 2 minutes long and say, well, this person is about this, so I disagree with them. Well, you don't know that because, first of all, the clip is taken out of context. You need the full context of what they said, and you need to get a pretty good feel of how they are, which means you got to listen to more than one thing they said, which means you got to go deeper than just one thing that you heard or one thing that someone else told you about them. And again, this is how most people draw their conclusions about others. Most people draw their conclusions about people who they don't like based on a out of context piece of information that they got. And without going and getting the full context or going and getting their own information, they come to assume that they know what they need to know about that person or that group or that thing without actually getting any information at all. And this is the reason why most people are willfully ignorant. Ignorant simply means to not know something. People are willfully ignorant means you don't know a thing. You have a very small amount of information, yet you are drawing conclusions and you are unwilling to hear or listen to anything that goes outside of the view that you've already decided to have. And most of the people I know, as a matter of fact, most of the people who I know, I'm not talking about people who I've strategically sought out and built relationships with. Most of the people who I've just known organically in my life, be the people I grew up with, family members, friends, people I went to school with, etc., former co-workers and things like that. Most people are like this. Most people are not willing to digest any context from someone or something or from a direction which they have already decided they don't agree. Most people live this way. And what I'm warning you is that you don't want to be one of these people. Because again, if you disagree with someone, you need a fundamental reason why. And your reason can't be surface level. It can't be surface level, such as black people. Well, I don't agree with this person or this group because he or they or it is racist. All right, that's a surface level reason. You call someone or something racist, you have to articulate how it's racist and articulate what exactly makes that racist. And a bunch of black people who think like this and talk like this all day, every day, cannot articulate this. Yet they will say it over and over again. And I challenge these people and they still can't give me an answer. What they end up doing is defaulting to emotion, which is, oh, well, I'm calling it racist. You're saying it's not racist. Well, that must mean you're trying to support racists. Or you're trying to support the racist people. Or you're trying to support, if they're talking about a white person, which they usually are, you're trying to support white people. Believe it or not, I had a white woman on Instagram just yesterday from the day I'm recording this, who was trying to tell me that you are not, I was making some point that wasn't agreeing with something that is a quote unquote black idea. And she was saying, and this is on one of my posts, because I told you on Instagram, I don't go and comment on other people's shit. So she had commented on my shit. And she was saying, well, you're not caring enough or thinking enough about your own people. This is a white woman saying this to me. And let's just say I got rid of her. Let's just put it that way. I didn't block her or anything, but I let her know in no uncertain terms that she should get the hell out of here and not come back. And this is what happens, that people tend to default to these emotional talking points, which are surface level, rather than being able to articulate what they actually believe and why they believe it, because most people don't really know why they believe things. They have just come to accept things because of who they are and because their identity has either been, actually not either been, but their identity has been leveraged against them. You often get this with black people who believe anything that labels itself black, they have to support, and anything that labels itself white or is told to them that is racist, they have to go against. And then you have the guilty white people who do the exact same thing. So anything labeled black, they have to support it and be an ally. And any black person they see who is not doing that, they will go and tell the black person that the black person is thinking the wrong thing because they're not going with the black thing. This is white people telling this to black people. And just for the record, just to make sure that I'm saying this out loud and it's recorded, these people are the worst. And when I talk about all of society, there are a bunch of stupid black people who just go along with anything they're told just because it's black. Those people are idiots. But I have more contempt for the white people who will tell a black person what they're supposed to think, say, or do just because that person is black. And there's a white person directing me, oh, well, you're black, so you're supposed to think this way. I have more contempt for them than I have even for the dumb black people. Just for the record, just so that's it. Maybe one day I'll do a whole episode on that concept. Not today. But if you disagree with someone wholesale, again, you have completely different worldviews from that person. You should be able to articulate not only your worldview, but theirs. And if you cannot articulate their worldview, it's usually because you are willfully ignorant. You have not listened to or read or heard enough of them to even know what their worldview is, because you only went off of a clip, a soundbite, one little thing that you heard. And again, a lot of people I know have this affliction and they don't even realize they have the affliction, and or they're unwilling to do anything about it. So in reference to your position, you should know what their position is and be able to explain it in logical and non-accusatory language. In other words, without attacking them personally, be able to attack their position. But again, you got to know what theirs is in order to do that. Most people don't. Most people just default to, well, this person's racist, this person's wrong, this person's always ABC, and you don't even know what they're always doing because you haven't consumed enough of their stuff to know what they're about. Most people can't do this, yet they have a long list of people with whom they believe they disagree. You cannot articulate your disagreement with another person or with another person's position. You are unqualified to disagree. It's not that you're wrong for disagreeing. Everybody has a right to disagree with or agree with whatever they want. But if you can't articulate why, you may be making your decisions based on emotion and subconscious programming rather than objective and logical thinking and conscious thinking. And objective, logical, and conscious thinking is work. It takes mental effort. Most people are neither objective nor logical, and they don't realize it because it's never been presented to them the opportunity. It's never been presented to them how to even be these things, let alone do they know how. One of the reasons that I follow and engage with people with whom I know I fundamentally disagree is to see what they're talking about. And I have myself and tell myself to explain to me, if not also to them, why I disagree with where they stand. So I hear someone who I believe that I disagree with say something. I ask myself, all right, why do I disagree with this? If I was standing on a stage and they made that statement and it's my turn to speak, could I articulate what my disagreement is with this person without sounding stupid? Could I? Many people, period, some of you who are listening to this, but many people in general cannot do this. And if you can't do this, you have no grounds upon which to disagree. Point number 2. Today's topic, once again, is why you should follow people with whom you disagree. Number 2, you might learn something or find that you agree with them on some things. I don't think there's a single human on the planet with whom I disagree on every single thing. I think I could find common ground with anybody at some point. Even if I disagree maybe wholesale with a lot of the stuff that they're about, I think I can find something to agree with anybody, every person I meet. Very rare that two human beings disagree on every single thing. Now, you'll find some common ground if you try. And let me back up here. You'll find some common ground if you try. Usually you will find that there is something you can have in common with any person, even if the person may never be your lifelong friend. Because as human beings, we are 98% pretty much the same, maybe even 99% the same as far as our bone structure, where our brains are, our how many bones we have, our limbs, all of those things, where our face is, where our eyes, ears, nose, and mouths are. We're all pretty much the same in many ways. You may find there's more common ground between you and someone who you thought you disagreed with than you even believed that there was until you started listening to what they had to say. The challenges with social media, for example, is that many people are only consuming other people's ideas via, as I said, clips, sound bites, things taken out of context, rather than getting the full context of what that person has to say or where they stand. So there are people who only know about this show, for example, from the clips that we'll put on social media, but they've never actually listened to an entire episode of the show. So you only get the clip. Or I'll get somebody who says something, they'll leave a comment on one of my clips that I put out, and they'll say, well, what about this part and that part? I said, well, you only heard the 90-second clip. You got to get the whole thing. I talked about that part, but it just didn't make it into that clip that you just saw. See, this very show, for example, again, there's a percentage of people who listen to the show in full context. You hear the whole episode, everything I have to say. Then there's a whole other population of people who only even know I have a show because they see the little 60-second clip and they say, oh, looks like you got a show. All right, but they never listen to the whole thing. So the question is, which one gives you a fuller context? Which one gives you a better idea of what I actually believe as opposed to what you think I believe? Of course, the full context. Problem is, consuming with the full context is a time investment that many people are not willing to make. See, if you can come to fully understand the perspective of a person who is relatively intelligent, you may find that you agree with them a lot more than you thought you did. Now, key phrase is relatively intelligent. A person has a relative amount of intelligence. You probably have a good amount of agreement with that person, whether you know it or not. You just got to be willing to listen to what that person has to say. And a lot of people are not willing to do this. They just draw the conclusions. And I want you to think of the thought exercise that I'm giving you. You disagree with a person wholesale. Ask yourself, if they were on a stage in front of an audience of people and it's just you and them on the stage. Think of it like the presidential debates. Just you and them and there's an audience. They made a statement. You fundamentally disagree. Can you explain why you disagree? Can you explain it? Can you put it into words? Without sounding dumb, without defaulting to any type of ad hominem, which means you are attacking the person rather than a point. Can you explain why you disagree with them in a way that makes logical sense? And again, deferring to your emotions, how you feel is not the same as why you disagree. How you feel saying, well, I think this person is racist, or I think this person hates men, or they hate women, or they hate Latin people, or they're anti-Semitic. Those are all deferrals to emotion. Can you logically and objectively explain why you disagree with the person? Most people, again, don't have the ability. I would suggest that you develop this ability because this is a critical thinking skill. Point number 3. Today's topic, once again, is why you should follow some people with whom you disagree. Number 3, you got to know what every side is up to. You got to know what everybody's doing. Zig Ziglar, the late, great, famous sales trainer and motivational speaker, he was famous for saying that every day he would wake up and read a little bit of the Bible, and then he would read a little bit of the newspaper. And the reason he read both is so he stayed up to date on what both sides were up to. Now, I see on social media, a lot of people will announce. People do this. I get people doing this to me. They will announce that they're unfollowing me because I said something that they don't like. They'll actually leave a comment and say, well, unfollowing. Or, hey, I used to watch your stuff on YouTube back in the day when I was playing ball, but I can't listen to you anymore because you said this. Or I bought one of your books, but I'm going to throw your book in the trash. I had somebody say that to me a couple of days ago. Or it was easy for me to decide to unfollow you now because you made this comment. People will go and announce, I don't like you anymore. I'm not following you anymore. I'm going to block you, whatever. I get this happening on all social media platforms where I talk about any type of current events, which usually is Twitter/X. And recently I started posting things on Instagram as well. And people will just announce that they're not following me anymore. Or they'll just announce that they're blocking me. Now, here's the reason why I'm bringing this up. People will bring these things up because they don't like a specific opinion that was shared, whether it be in favor of something that they hate or is challenging or critical of something that they love. And this is a form of cancel culture. That's what this is a form of cancel culture. I talked about cancel culture in episode number 1755, the scary truth about cancel culture. Now, why am I calling it cancel culture? Because first of all, I wholeheartedly disagree with the concept of cancel culture. The better you understand the actual thoughts, ideas, and words of people with whom you disagree, and knowing that you have a full context, you will be in better position to challenge their ideas and challenge their points if you ever get the opportunity. Cancel culture means blocking someone's ability to say something because you don't like what you've heard, because whatever they said makes you uncomfortable. Let's just say it makes you uncomfortable. I will never cancel a person because I don't like what they said. If someone says something that I don't like, I will challenge it. I will say, okay, I see that you said that, but how about this? Or what you said here is incorrect because of this. I will engage with the person with whom I disagree. Even when someone comes into my comment section and disagrees with me, as long as they believe they have some logical reason, they're offering a reason to attack my point. As long as they're not attacking me, you come at me ad hominem, just saying, well, you're a bum, you're stupid, et cetera, you're getting deleted and blocked. But if you come at me and you challenge my point and you go completely against my point, I will engage with you. You can go against my point. I've had these points well thought out. Most of the things that I'm posting on social media, I've well thought out my points. It's not that I've always done that, but most of the time I have. And I'll defend my point. If you disagree with the point, okay, let me know. What you disagree with? Tell me why. And if you can hold your own and say what you say, we may come to an understanding. I won't even call it agreeing to disagree because that means neither one of us is really trying. Just an understanding. Okay, you fundamentally look at this way. I look at it this way. That's a discrepancy between us. I'm not trying to change your mind on that. You're not going to change my mind on this. Once we understand each other's position, however, which might require some dialogue. I have to understand why you see things this way. You got to understand why I see things that way, which usually takes more back and forth than just whatever is said in a post, because most posts on social media are relatively short. So you can't make a decision based on that little piece of information. You got to do the work. Most people are not willing to do the work, which might simply mean just communicating with someone with whom you believe you disagree. And both people had to be mature enough to have that communication, even if it appears that they don't agree with each other. And again, there's another thing that many people cannot do. I'm on social media every day. I see it. So I know people can't do it. I get the comments when people disagree with me and they're more emotional about it than logical. I just told you some examples. Better you understand what people actually believe, again, which requires context. This is why you got to follow them so you can get a fuller idea of their position rather than just one post or some clip that you saw on TV or on the internet. Now you have a better understanding of what that person's about. Listen to them being interviewed. They happen to be a public figure. Go find them being interviewed where they get asked questions directly about where they stand and let them answer. So now you understand what they're talking about. Doesn't mean you're going to come to be a fan of them, but you can have a better understanding of them. There are many people out there who I am not a fan of their stuff, but I still follow their stuff for a couple of reasons. One of them is because some of these people I know are some of the biggest voices for communities and for ideas that I don't agree with, but I want to see what they're talking about so I know what kind of ideas they're throwing out there. So I can understand why everybody else is saying a certain thing. There are people whom I fundamentally disagree with some of the things that some of their principles, the things that they stand for as principles. But in general, I do understand why they say the things they say. I don't agree with their conclusion, but I understand how they built their argument, even though I don't agree with the argument or the conclusion. I understand how they did it. And some of them, look, I might learn a few skills as far as how they build their arguments. Just because I disagree with your conclusion doesn't mean I can't respect the way that you put your argument together. I've had people say that to me. Like, Dre, I don't agree with everything you say here on the show, but I do respect the way that you build up your argument and make your point. And when you explain why you believe what you believe, even though I don't agree, I respect the way that you put it together. And I can respect that about other people as well, even when I disagree with them. The thing is, you can't get there with anyone if you don't listen to what they have to say. And if you say you're going to block or unfollow or never listen to anything another person says, or you won't read a book of a person you don't like, or you won't watch the interview because you already know you don't like that person, well, you're blocking yourself off from some information. Again, just because you disagree with a person doesn't mean that they are not influential to other people. There are people who agree with them, which means their ideas may be infiltrating the minds of a bunch of people who you're around and you don't even know it because you won't listen to what they have to say. And I'll give you this last piece here before we recap this class, that those of you who are social media consumers, you don't have to be publishing on social media every day, all day like I do. But if you are a consumer on social media, understand that you should not, this is a suggestion I give, you should not use social media just to listen to people who you like. Don't use it just to listen to people who you like. Find some people who you think you may not like, who you think are absolutely wrong, and just start listening to what they have to say. You will find out that you probably have a lot more in common with them than you thought. And you may find out that they have some ideas that you're like, you know what, actually, I agree with that. And that's how I started to swallow the red pill again, so to speak, as I said back in 2016, as we recap this class. In 2016, I started to swallow the red pill because I said, there's no way Donald Trump can win. How can anybody vote for this guy? He's going to be so terrible. He's going to bring back slavery. He's going to roll back all the gains and wins of everyone who has achieved any level of equality or civil rights over the last 60 years. How can anybody possibly vote for this guy? That's the way I believe, because that's all I was hearing. And I was hearing it from some very smart people. Then after he won, I said, let me go follow some of these people who actually are happy that Trump won. Because there's no way that this many people could all want to roll back all the gains of women, gays, and black people from the last 60 years. No way all of these people could want that. So then I started listening to him and I realized that that's not even what he was about. Then I realized that no, that's not what these people who are following him are about. And it was a whole lot more to the story than what I had been told from one side of the conversation. And once I realized that, that's when I realized I was the fool, because I was the one who was blocking myself off from some valuable insight and information from other people who were able to explain things just as articulately as the people on the other side of the conversation, but they had different conclusions that they were coming to. And over the last, let's say almost 10 years since that happened, a lot of things have changed when it comes to public discourse. And I think a lot of people who were against, since we're using Trump here as an example, a lot of people who are against him have gone further and further and further in the direction in which they go, let's say to the left. And the people on the other side, they pretty much stood in the same spot. That's the way I see it. You may not see it that way, but that's the way that I see it. If you disagree, articulate why. Recapping these points. Number one, and the topic again today is why you should follow some people with whom you disagree. Number one is a critical thinking challenge. You must be able to articulate why you disagree with a person, not just say you disagree, and it has to be stronger than just your emotional feelings. Number two, you might learn something and or find that you agree with them on some things. You usually will. No two people disagree on every single thing. And if you listen to another person, you'll find that you actually have some things in common. And number three, you get to know what every side is up to. You should know what the other side is up to, even if you hate the other side, because you hating them does not mean that they don't exist, and it doesn't mean they're not influential, and it doesn't mean there's not a lot of people who agree with them. So you should know what's going on that other side, because the enemy that you know about is much easier to deal with than the enemy that you don't know about. So with all that said, folks, text me. So you're in my community. My number's down below in the description. Also down there is my link to Work on Your Game University. If you would like to work with me directly, or you like to get access to all of our courses, or you want to get in one of our group programs, go to Work on Your Game University. The link is down below in the description. Work on your game. Dre, all